Hi everyone, welcome back to Susan Dawn Ascension Connections. This is going to be a big one. I am trying not to get overwhelmed with the amount of information that has come through in just the past couple of days and with my own experiences. I feel like what we're going to do is we're going to take it bit by bit and step by step. So get comfortable, grab yourself a cup of tea, and let's just dive into it. We're going to take a couple of deep breaths just to ground ourselves. And I'm going to do my best to make this as fluid as possible because there's a lot and it's a little bit overwhelming for me. We're going to start with recapping the recent energies. Now, I do want you to make sure that you're taking this as a timeless reading. There are some present astrological energies that are supporting us right now, but do take this as a timeless reading and receive it and the messages that are meant for you as it's meant for you in the time that you're watching this. Again, these are all meant to be timeless. We're just channeling it in real time. So I'm going to start with the Venus-Mars conjunction. We've been channeling the Venus-Mars conjunction for the past several weeks now. You can check out the New Union Cycles Begin channeling here on the channel. We channeled then that it was a big turning point for these sacred unions, twin flames, sacred partners, whatever it is that you feel comfortable calling it. It is the divine partnership, the sacred relationship, the union of the masculine and the feminine. Now, I found myself on this journey channeling for those who consider themselves twin flame, sacred partners, whatever label you choose, because that's the journey that I found myself on. That's what activated me to my ascension. I call it the sacred union path of ascension. But you can take this for your own inner masculine, your own inner feminine, for that with a counterpart, with a conscious connection, because it can apply to conscious connections as a whole, or for the global collective energies of the masculine and the feminine, because the energies are seen in nature. The energies are seen in the world as a whole, and that is what we're shifting. We're shifting the template of the masculine and the feminine, and we're shifting that first within ourselves, and we see that with our partnerships. We see that with our sacred unions, first within ourselves, in the balance and harmonization of the masculine and feminine polarity. Then that's expressed in our sacred relationships with these counterpart connections, and then that's expressed in our global collective in the world around us. For example, moving from the patriarchy, not to a matriarchy, but more to a balanced whole. And so that's what this journey is really showing us. That is a new template of relationships. It's a new template of connecting. It's a new template of being and embodiment. And so we're moving out of old paradigms and old templates and into the new. And so, however this resonates for you, take it as it resonates for you. But this is a turning point for sacred unions. And so, when I talk about sacred unions, you can take it as it resonates in whichever way that resonates. But I'm mostly going to be talking about those who are finding themselves in sacred connection with another, or who has had a catalyst partner on this journey of ascension, and who might be finding themselves in those sacred relationships. And that's what sacred relationships are. It's about honoring each other. And we're going to be diving deep into that today. So, we have been channeling again that this is a shift from the logical mind to the heart and a balance between the two. So, the masculine energy is more in the logical mind, and the feminine energy is the feeling body, the emotions, the heart. And we're shifting from the logical mind into the heart space, which is where the intuition resides as well. So we're moving from the logical mind and seeing things from just a physical lens, and learning how to see things through that higher heart space, through the intuition, through the lens of the soul. And it's not about disregarding the logic. It's not about disregarding the mind. The mind is a very powerful tool, and I'm hearing a powerful tool for creation as well. But it's, again, coming online with the heart. It's not disregarding one or the other. It's about the wholeness. It's about coming into the harmonization between the two. And so that's what we've been channeling as well. It's the heart to heart connection. And when we're talking about these counterparts, again, it could be within yourself as well. Take it as it resonates, because you can't have something outside of yourself unless you're also experiencing that within. For example, you come into that wholeness, that balance, that oneness within, and you experience that in your physical world. Your physical world is a reflection of that. We had recently channeled in a Sacred Union energy update on Susan Dawn Spiritual Connections. The lines of love are open. And what we were channeling was that It feels like there is always that cord or that line between you and your counterpart. And what might come up between you two is all that toxic soul sludge, right? All the karma, all the humanness, your experiences, your trauma, your whatever it is that is your human experience comes up between you two. But the cord always clears through the energy of love. If you clear all that stuff, which is what we're doing on this journey, if you clear all that soul sludge, the underlying current between you two that's always running between you two, between these counterparts, is the energy of love. So this inner union, as we're clearing within ourselves, we're clearing within our relationship, this inner union leads to a physical creation and forward momentum. I want to pause here and share with you something that I've been experiencing myself. And I wrote a blog post about this. I'll put that link in the description box. And I talked a little bit about this as well. But I've been having a huge consciousness shift since the beginning of February, really being pushed into this new understanding. And this has been something that's come up over the course of my journey, and remember that your journey is an evolution. You're always evolving. We might intellectually know something, but to physically embody it, to physically feel it with every fiber of your essence, that's something different. That's an anchoring in, that's an integration, and it might take a process for you to shift from, again, the logical mind to the anchoring in. So what happens is we begin to understand that union is always part of us. And that's something also that we've been channeling. We've channeled the phrases union of opposites, where it might seem like you're opposite, but you're two sides of the same coin, that there is no separation there. We've channeled the phrase, you've always been in union, and that's the truth. You're just healing the illusion of separation, clearing that illusion of separation within yourself, within everyone around you. And we've also recognized unity consciousness. What is unity consciousness? Unity consciousness is understanding that we're all facets of the same whole. Well, what has come through this past few weeks, especially significantly this past month or this past week, is that there is no other. Now, what does that mean when I say that? Because in our physical world, we're looking at people and we're like, well, that's somebody over there, and that's somebody over there, and that's somebody over there. And yes, everybody has their unique, distinct personalities, identities, etc. And that's what makes life so beautiful. That's what makes life so beautifully messy, is what God brought to me a couple of weeks ago. Life is messy. Embrace the glorious messiness of it. Because when we embrace the beautiful messiness of it from an anchored in place of faith and trusting God and recognizing that God is the container, that God is holding all of us, the mother and father aspect of God in that oneness holding all of us, then we can embrace our uniqueness, recognizing that we're still one with God. And so there is no other. And what they brought to me was, it's like a gemstone. It's like you can consider it a diamond, a gemstone. This is the best example that I have here. So you see how there's one gemstone, right? That makes up the whole form, physicalness of this structure. Well, what you don't see underneath the surface are all the atoms and molecules and all the everything vibrating, the energy vibrating at such a high speed that it forms the structure. Well, the energy itself is God that makes up this whole gemstone. But you see all the faces of it, the facets of it, all these smooth pieces of it. Imagine billions of those. That's all the people on this planet. And you can go even further and imagine that to be the trees, the plants, the animals. It is all the consciousnesses. And so there is no other. There is no out there. It's just reflections of the one. And we're a reflection of the one. And when we really anchor into that, we see that somebody, if we're talking about people, for example, somebody might be reflecting a past version of ourselves, a present version of ourselves, a future version of ourselves, of who we want to be. It could be reflecting the light version of ourselves, the shadow version of ourselves. You and your twin are one. There is no one out there. There is no person well, there might be a physical embodiment of a person out there, but you're that same soul. They have their own unique personality. They have their own experiences. But you are one as far as the soul itself, embodied into physical being. I go into that in the blog post. You can check that out. I go into a little bit of a deeper understanding and realization about that. This Venus-Mars conjunction is big because we are recognizing that inner union. And what is inner union? It is that anchoring in to the feminine and the masculine within ourselves and recognizing that our counterparts, who we might have been looking at as out there, they're living their lives doing this and other relationships and other dynamics and other jobs and other etc. And yes, in the physical, yes, but they're still anchored in with us. That's where we feel that connection. That's where we feel the energy of each other. And so we'll get into that in a minute. But what the feminine has been doing, she's been in a kind of preparation mode. She has been holding the space just as the masculine has held the space at the beginning of the feminine's journey when she was activated to all the healing and the clearing and the consciousness shifts. The masculine held the space for her. She's been holding the space for the masculine's ascension now, because the feminine is the energy that gives birth to that creation. The feminine is the energy. She goes first energetically, bringing down those templates, bringing down those codes, and the masculine then anchors that in. So now he's going through his ascension and has been going through his ascension, and he is going through an activation. So the feminine has been going through a preparation. The feminine is going through an activation. And again, we go through this in many of my other teachings and channelings, and you can feel free to check out the Journey to Union video bundle, where we have compiled all of this into remastered channelings for really easy understanding of what this journey is and how this journey is taking place and unfolding. Okay, so with the Venus-Mars conjunction, we've also had the 222 portal in the same week. And we have the full moon in Virgo happening now as we're channeling this. So this is all a massive portal for healing energy that is going to take us into that forward momentum and those activations into March and beyond. So March being a really big month as far as activations, as far as healing, as far as releasing, but not in the same way that we've known it in the past. This is something different. This is something that is truly anchoring in. For myself, and I'm going to talk about what we might have experienced. I experienced a big purge on Wednesday, but it wasn't a purge as I've known it in the past. It was a holding space for myself. It was an observing, and it was release, an acknowledgement of the emotions that were coming up, and then just releasing them. And then I had a significant something that happened on Thursday, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But I just want to, again, kind of recap some of these energies before we go further into these teachings. So I did a Sacred Union energy update, channeling on Susan Dawn Spiritual Connections. And then I think it was the next day that I got even more about what we might be experiencing in the physical, in our physical journey. So there's what's happening energetically, and then what we might be experiencing as a result of that energy. And this is the purge that we might be experiencing. And again, purge doesn't hold the same weight, density, and heaviness as it might have in the past. So I said we're having all sorts of astrological transits that are supporting these energy shifts for counterparts and new union cycles. But the inner work is the key to navigating this potential for forward momentum. With the Venus-Mars conjunction being a turning point for the divine masculine and divine feminine dynamic, and the full moon creating a powerful container for releasing old energies, you might be experiencing a purge within the pain body, particularly triggering memories of past experiences with your counterpart. For myself, I've been resting a lot and just taking care of myself. And as I'm doing that, I'm just guided to watch, certain television shows or movies or read certain books. And it's like I'm being led all along the way, because I'll be guided to read a certain book, and there'll be a passage in that book that triggers something within me to either release, or that further anchors in an understanding that I have, or something that we've been channeling for years that further anchors in to my heart space or into my understanding. Again, ascension is that inner spiral, and you don't just learn it one time. You learn it with deeper and deeper and deeper meaning. We'll into that in a minute as well, because there's more on that. And then I was guided to watch a certain television show that I'd watched many years ago, so I knew what it was all about, but for some reason I was guided to watch it again. And I get to a certain season, and it's something that I had experienced in my physical world with my counterpart. And it allowed me to feel the emotions I didn't allow myself to feel back then because I was focused on other things, or because I had suppressed that, or because I just had not allowed myself to feel the full throttle of what it was I was feeling. And so experiencing this through this television show allowed me to acknowledge the emotions that I had felt back then. So it was a release, and I didn't attach the story to it. I just allowed myself to observe it, recognize it, not analyze it. There's a difference. We're not analyzing anymore. We're just allowing ourselves to understand it, acknowledge it, observe it, witness ourselves, and release it. So there's an underlying energy of love, however, and that's what I kept coming back to. Even though I was feeling certain elements of pain, or maybe certain elements of heartbreak or disappointment, or even sacred anger, I wasn't attached to it. I allowed myself again just to observe it and come back to the love. Observe it, release it, come back to the love, because the love I know is what's real. And at every point along our journey, we have a choice, right? Are we going to attach to those denser energies of fear, of heartbreak, of anger? It's not about avoiding that. It's not about denying those feelings. But again, we have to have our container for that. We have to hold space for that and allow ourselves to feel through it, to release it. You have to reveal it to heal it. We had that channeling. I don't remember what channeling that was, but you have to reveal it to heal it. You have to acknowledge it in order to make your way through it, because otherwise it's just going to sink back in, and it just becomes dense and soul sludgy, and it just holds you back. But you're feeling it is your liberation. And so by allowing myself to acknowledge it and say, okay, this is how I felt. And I didn't acknowledge the feelings. And by not acknowledging the feelings back then, I let them be suppressed. I let myself kind of just house them in my own pain body without acknowledging them. And so by allowing myself to release it, acknowledge it, observe it, and then release it, I allowed myself to come back to the love. And the love is always the truth of your connection. And for those who might be doubting your connection, there's an exercise that I did with a client. It's put your counterpart in front of you. Not the physical person, but the energy of that person. And you know the energy of that person, because that's what these soul connections are. It's the energy. You recognize the energy of that love that you have with each other. Put them in front of you. And without all of the experiences that you've had, without all the stories that you create about each other, how is it that you feel? How is it that you're experiencing them? What is the love that is passing between the two of you? That's you connecting within the heart space. So if you're having trouble, number one, you can try the exercise called Clearing the Consciousness Trap that I just posted on Susan Dawn's Spiritual Connections, to actively do some healing work, some mirror exercises, or you can just energetically put them in front of you without the stories, without the experiences that you've gone through. Just put them heart to heart in front of you and put your hand on your heart, close your eyes. For some reason, I have my left hand on my solar plexus, so you can do that as well. And just connect heart to heart. How is it that you feel? What stories are true? What is the truth of what it is that you're feeling? Just bring yourself back to the love, and that will reveal for you what is true. The way that this journey can sometimes shake us up is the physical experiences that we've had. And this is especially true if you've had a very physical connection with your counterpart, like you've been doing this journey in connection or in communication or in physical proximity with your counterpart. That's where this journey can really shake us up, because we have very physical experiences. Maybe it's arguments, maybe it's triggers, maybe it is, whatever those experiences are. For some, it might be third party situations, other connections. So we have very physical experiences, and those experiences are not to be denied or swept under the rug. It's not something that is to be dismissed, but it's something to show us. Those physical experiences are showing us more and more and more about ourselves. And that's where we tune into the heart. We don't have to engage in those physical 3D experiences or put the focus on those 3D experiences, but we do have to acknowledge them in order to heal them and keep coming back to how do we feel within the energy? How does the energy feel? And keep releasing anything that maybe by disengaging or maybe by shifting patterns or shifting mindsets. Again, everything is a reflection. It's not about denying the 3D, but it's about coming back to how you feel energetically. Okay, so let's get back into this. So there's an underlying energy of love, and with proper awareness and utilizing the tools of your self mastery of all you've learned along your journey, you can transmute any anger, disappointment, and heartbreak that is coming to the surface to be acknowledged and released. Keep observing the emotions without reattaching to the story of the experience, and allow the love to rise and override any of the denser energies you're feeling, which is what we were just talking about. With these transits, the passionate energy that is felt can give way to peace or conflict, depending on your level of awareness and healthy embodiment. So there's a lot of emotion coming up. There's a lot of passionate energy that's coming up. I kept saying it was the full moon and Leo energy. Leo energy kept coming up for me this week, and I realized I had a astrology class yesterday, and I realized that I have my Venus Mars. My Venus Mars is conjunct, and conjunction is when again two planets are close, and that's what's in my birth chart, and both are in the sign of Leo. So there's a lot of Leo energy for me, and because we just had the Venus Mars conjunction, the collective Venus Mars conjunction, it was activating my own Venus Mars conjunction that I have in my birth chart. And so a lot of Leo energy, a lot of passionate energy coming up, especially with this full moon, the 222 portal, and the Venus Mars conjunction. And so that passion can give way to either passion or it can give way to conflict. Just be mindful. And if it gives way to conflict, how are you going to repair that conflict, heal that conflict? What is that conflict showing you? Always bring it back to a level of self-awareness. What is it showing you? What is it trying to teach you? Okay, so while you may be triggered by memories of your past experiences with your counterpart, or for some, you might be having challenging present experiences, there's an underlying energy of love that has anchored into the heart space. Despite any denser emotions rising to the surface, you're aware of their temporary existence as they cycle through for release in order to return back to love. I want to emphasize that. It's a temporary feeling, and feelings are temporary. And so allow yourself to keep coming back. One of the greatest gifts my divine counterpart, many gifts he's brought me, but one of the things that he was really, really good at was always bringing us back. Anytime we had conflict, anytime we had heavy emotion, he would always do something that would make me laugh or that would lighten the energy. We would go for walks or would go for drives, and the energy would immediately lighten and we would come back to love. And I've definitely learned how to apply that to my own experience in my own world, and in everyday life is what I mean. And I just remember how the light or how the energy would immediately lighten up. I'm somebody who's a very deeply feeling person and I need to process those emotions, but he really helped to ground my energy and kind of bring me back to that lightness, bring me back to that love, bring me back to myself. So keep remembering that feelings, emotions are temporary. Ground your energy, keep releasing and acknowledging, observing, but don't reattach to that because it's just a temporary cycle. And the cycle can happen very, very quickly. For myself, I was transmuting in a matter of minutes. So the more that you practice this, the easier it becomes and the quicker it becomes. So we channeled this is the residue of separation energy that you're breaking through, deeper layers of the illusion where you may have unconsciously played out abandoning or neglecting yourselves or one another based on beliefs, patterns, and templates of the past. This must be released in order for the new union cycles to begin. So the transits, the Venus-Mars conjunction, and the full moon are creating a container for this release. And no matter where you are in your journey, there's an opportunity for great healing within yourself and with each other. Be mindful again that this passionate energy doesn't give way to conflict. Your awareness is your superpower, and the more you're able to bear witness to yourself and regulate your emotions in healthy and productive ways, the better you'll be able to navigate this energy, which has the potential to become a huge turning point for not only your connection, but your life. Okay, that being said, there's something else about that course that I took with the Venus Mars conjunction that I just want to mention really quickly. I can't be certain because I'm not an astrologist. I'm going to ask this of my astrology coach, my astrology teacher. But I feel like there's something significant for these counterparts, counterpart connections, twin flame, sacred partners, whatever you call it, and Venus, Mars in your birth chart. I want to look into that further. I don't have all the answers. This is just a hypothesis, something that I'm called to. It feels like it's something. It feels like it's something significant. The reason I'm saying that is because the Venus Mars energy is this, it's a feminine and masculine coming together. It feels like King Arthur and Guinevere. It feels like Mary Magdalene and Yeshua. It feels like Isis and Osiris. It feels like that counterpart energy, that coming together and uniting as one. And that's what the conjunction energy is. It's the coming together, the uniting as one, being in the same place at the same time. We also had recently, this past week, just a couple of days ago, a twin solar flare. From space.com, it says that 2 outbursts from the sun occurred as widespread cell phone outages were reported throughout the United States. So this was on February 22nd. So at the same time that we're having this Venus-Mars conjunction, we also had 2 solar flares from the sun. And I just want to read what a solar flare actually is. Okay, solar flares are large explosions from the surface of the sun that emit intense bursts of electromagnetic radiation. The intensity of the explosion determines what classification the flare belongs to. The most powerful are X-class flares, which is what we experienced, and they called it specifically twin solar flares. So there's 2 things that are occurring here. Number 1, it was occurring during the Venus-Mars conjunction. Again, that union energy, that oneness energy. And number 2, it's coming from the sun. And we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but the sun being that masculine presence, the sun being that masculine energy. And it feels like an activation. For myself, I was driving to physical therapy. I left my house. I was about to get in my car and I said, something feels strange. Something feels like, it felt like an anticipatory energy. And I had a conversation with God. I said, God, should I actually go? Because the day before I was purging and I canceled all my appointments. And I said, should I actually go to physical therapy? And God said, yes, go. So I'm driving. And as I'm driving, I'm listening to music. And this one song comes on, and we're going to talk about this too. This one song comes on, and I'm feeling something break open. I'm having a conversation with Yeshua. Yeshua is actually very present with me as I'm driving. I'm seeing him here in my third eye, face to face with him, and we're having a conversation. And I'm getting activated, and I'm feeling in oneness with everything around me. I'm feeling in oneness with the cows in the pasture. I'm feeling in oneness with the birds in the trees. I'm feeling in oneness with the blades of grass. And again, we've felt this throughout the course of our journey, but not as anchored in as this. And so Yeshua was actually talking to me about something personal that I was experiencing. And when the conversation ends, I feel this energy of just forgiveness. I feel the cord between me and my counterpart. And it's something that I've been working on all year, which is forgiving myself, forgiving him. And all of a sudden I felt this burst of energy, this burst of light, and I felt this burst of forgiveness, and something broke free. And I felt that given and I felt that received. And between the 2 of us, not one needing to forgive the other, but both of us. And remember, there is no other. It is just you. It is just one. And when I say you, I don't mean you as in physical you. I mean the one energy that you are as the 2 of you together. The we. Looking at it as the we. Looking at it as the us. And that's what relationship is all about. That's what connection is all about, right? You move from the I to the we. Now, the I is still present. You're still present as your unique version of you, as your unique personality, especially in physical relationship. If we're bringing it down to the 3D and conscious connection, you're still you. You're still you, your partner is still them. you don't have that enmeshment. You don't have that codependency. You're still the individual you, but it's an interdependence. You're operating with your relationship as that third energy, as that Trinity energy. You give birth to the relationship and you nurture that relationship as the we. And so that's the Trinity energy with God as well. It's, God is kind of like at the highest level. They were showing it to me. I was laughing because they were showing it to me as like a organizational chart in like a corporate setting. It's like God is at the top, but then you're also part of God, an aspect of God that's just expressing God energy through you. And that's what Christ consciousness is. That's what you're embodying. You're embodying that Christ Sophia consciousness. You're embodying that aspect of God through you. We'll get into that deeper in other channelings. We go deeper into that in other channelings. I just feel like we're touching the surface of things today because there's a lot that's here. It felt like a liberation. It felt like when I say liberation, I mean a heaviness that I had been feeling just broke free from me. And there was just love, just absolute love. So the Venus Mars conjunction is going to be pivotal and remain pivotal. The energy of it is going to have a ripple effect and continue on. Even though that Venus Mars conjunction and energy is passing, it's going to continue on and have that ripple effect to go forward. Okay, now I mentioned music, that as I was having this breakthrough, which again, this breakthrough has been coming through for all of February, music was a powerful and has been a powerful portal for healing, a powerful energetic catalyst for healing. For many of us, we receive music downloads. We receive understanding through the lyrics. For myself, a couple of weeks ago, I felt guided to some kind of action where I was not wanting to, but my heart led me to, and it was because of like the music was kind of guiding me to, not the lyrics, but the music itself was stirring something inside of me, and I've really had to. I spent maybe an hour driving before I took action to say, is this my ego? Or am I being guided? And I was being guided. So music is powerful portals for healing, powerful catalysts for our journey as well in some way, shape, or form. And always make sure too that you're coming from a place of tuning into your own intuition, tuning into your heart space, and listening to your soul versus listening to the ego. Make sure that you're paying attention to that, especially when you're looking at something. When it comes to like something like music, make sure that it's stirring the heart and the soul and not the ego, because it can go either way, and that's where you have to use your own discernment. Make sure it's not accessing the ego aspects of yourself and repeating patterns, but that it's connecting with your soul, that it's connecting with your heart. So the universe actually speaks to us through the arts. I'm a big lover of the arts and big lover of the humanities because art speaks to our humanity. It helps us to reflect on our humanity. It helps us to understand our ability for transformation. Just as I use this proverb all the time, just as a man never steps into the same river twice because he's not the same man and it's not the same river, so too will you never read the same book twice or listen to the same music twice or hear it in the same way. Or will you see the same piece of art twice, because you're not the same person and you'll always bring to it that growth, or will always reflect to you the growth. Now, there are certain pieces of music, for example, that will carry you back to when you were a teenager. I just saw a TikTok of somebody playing the first chords of a song, and it was a funny thing, like, oh my gosh, this is calling all the Gen X's into the room. It's like a calling call for all Gen X people. And it's true. It's like certain pieces of music brings us back in memory to where we were. You can see that in Alzheimer's patients as well. Two of my grandmothers had Alzheimer's, and when we played certain music, she would go back to where she was, and into this energy of joy and love and lighthearted. My one grandmother would sing "One Two Buckle Your Shoe." Like she was a kid, like she was a child again. So music has a powerful healing ability. It's a portal for memory. But when we're brought back in those memories as well, there's a healing that happens there, right? What are we doing when we're reminiscing? What are we doing when we're healing? For example, if you're listening to the same music that you listened to during a heartbreak or a breakup or something like that, where you were completely heartbroken, and you listen to it again, where is the capability for healing? To listen to it maybe with a different nuance or maybe with a different understanding or a different awareness. Where is the ability for it to help to heal you rather than sinking into the heartbreak? Because you're always going to be growing, you're always going to be evolving, you're always going to be transforming. So you're always going to be interpreting it or receiving it in a different way, because it's always going to be reflecting back to you your evolution and your growth. So that being said, the song that I was listening to on Thursday was a song that I had used in one of my book promo videos. I've been doing some book promos for my fiction books, and I came across this song, and it was a gorgeous song, and I'm like, okay, well, that seems perfect. It's called God Only Knows by For King and Country, and I'm not monetized on this channel, so I'm gonna play some of this song and we can listen to it together, because I want to talk about the lyrics as well, because there's some breakthroughs that are happening here as well. So I'm gonna play some of this here. God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. God only knows how it's killing you. But there's a kind of love that God only knows. God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. But God only knows the real you. There's a kind of love that God only knows. For the lonely, for the ashamed, the misunderstood and the ones to blame. What if we could start over? We could start over. We could start over. Oh, for the lonely, for the ashamed, the misunderstood and the ones to blame. What if we could start over? We could start over. We could start over. 'Cause there's a kind of love that God only knows. God only knows what you've been through. Okay. I wanted to share that because, number one, not just the lyrics, but the music themselves. Well, the whole of the song, yes, but the music itself, the rise and fall, the crescendo of notes, it just it anchors in. It just anchors in and makes you feel, and that's what I was listening to. I was listening to that just over and over. I ended up putting it on repeat, and it was getting me into like this meditative state where I was connecting with God, and then all of a sudden Yeshua's in there having a conversation with me and breaking me open. And so when I share my own experiences, it's not for you to have the same exact experience, but for you to know, number one, what is possible, for you to know, number two, what might be ahead for you or what you might be experiencing as well, maybe just in a different way. But it's a breakthrough, it's breaking us open. And so, what was interesting about this is the lyrics, and I just want to talk about the lyrics for a minute. So there's a kind of love that God only knows. The God only knows the real you. It's that, but it's also with these connections, you truly do know each other. You truly do see each other no matter how hard you hide from each other, no matter how hard you try to run from each other, try to avoid each other. Now, we're not talking about the physical. Remember, we're not talking about the physical relationship. We're not talking about the physical world. We're talking about the energy. And this can play out in your physical world, but right now we're bringing it to the higher perspective of the energy. And that's what you felt when you first connected, when you were first activated, when you first had that soul to soul recognition, when maybe your eyes met and you felt that pull, or you felt that home, or you felt that familiarity, or you felt that love. It's that acknowledgement of I see you, because you were seeing the soul of each other. And that, in essence, is that God source energy that you were anchoring in, that was connecting the two of you. This morning, this has been a wild weekend, you guys. So this morning I woke up at 1:30, and I just kept replaying that phrase over and over and over in my mind. We can start over, we can start over, we can start over. And so I took a couple of notes and I got up and I started channeling, and a lot was coming through. And I'm going to try to articulate all of that. So, first, I'm trying to organize it because, again, it's overwhelming for me because there is so much. And I'm trying to put it into pieces for all of you. So, again, we can start over. It feels like, again, these union energies are coming in. For some, this is going to be the person that you've been catalyzed with, where there's a healing, a massive healing, where there's a mending, where there's a transformation that is happening. For others, this is going to be starting over with a new counterpart, somebody who is coming in to reflect your growth, to reflect your frequency, to reflect where you are now. Now, this is going to be a process. It's not happening immediately, but tune into the energy. So you might not be seeing the physicalness of this yet, having the conversations, having the meetups. For many of you, you are, but this might be an unfolding. And I really feel like this is going to be moving in momentum from now until summer. I feel like the summer is going to be a really big month, even into September. This whole year feels huge as far as momentum, physical creation, and this union energy. And really anchoring into that oneness with each other. And that's going to reflect in a physical partnership, in your physical partnership. So for many, I mean, there's different pathways everybody's taken. Remember, this is a collective reading, so do take it as it resonates for you and what you might be experiencing. Some of my clients, if you guys watched or if you guys read one of my testimonials recently, I had a little bit of an essay about that as well. I shared some of my insight about that. But one of my clients shared that she's having a lot of communication with her divine masculine, who is revealing to her that he is taking a new job because the job that he's in just doesn't feel aligned to him anymore. This is the divine masculine that is rising. This is the divine masculine that is becoming very conscious of themselves and of their connection as well, and working in union now rather than against the divine feminine. For others, I have other clients who are maybe on a soulmate path or who are meeting counterpart connections that might not have been the person that they were activated with. So it really just depends on what your journey feels, what feels true for you, what resonates for you. It really does depend. Everybody's path is going to look a little bit different. Don't pit yourself against anybody else. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. Even though we are part of a collective where we're feeling the same energetically, where we're walking the sacred union path, everybody's physical experience is going to look a little bit different, and it's going to be true for you. So honor yourself. Trust in your intuition, trust in what you are receiving, and trust in the unfolding for you. Connect with your spirit team, connect with God, and keep letting your path unfold for you in the best and perfect way for you. Okay, so what's happening is we're being held in a container by God. God is holding us in this container. We talked a little bit about that. For some, you might be being held by the masculine or the feminine, depending on the aspect that's being healed right now. And what I'm actually getting is it's one and the same. Like you're both healing at the same time. So, as a divine feminine, I'm really anchoring in my inner sacred masculine, that feeling of safety, that feeling of security, and I can feel my masculine counterpart, my masculine energy holding that space and helping me to anchor that in, helping me to become that best version, the best feminine version of myself that I can be, while feeling very grounded in my sacred masculine as well. For the masculine, they're anchoring in perhaps their inner feminine, learning to trust their intuition, learning how to express themselves. And the feminine is holding space for that, and loving them through that, believing in them through that. And again, this is happening either energetically or this is happening in the physical, depending on where you are in your connection. For those who connect with twin energy, again, this is happening at the same time because you're not separate. You're not separate. So you're both holding each other. You're both anchoring in each other. As one heals, the other heals. I was having a session with a divine feminine the other day. Actually, she was having the session for me. She was holding space for me. We were having a conversation, and um, it was amazing. I haven't talked to her in many, many years, but we were connecting again, and we were exactly on the same page. Going through the exact same experiences, feeling the same thing energetically. And again, we haven't connected in since like 2020. And she was reiterating that the divine feminine, even though the divine feminine leads energetically, for her, she's been in connection with her divine masculine. She will heal something energetically, and her masculine will then call her up and say, "Did you just heal this? Because I just felt the shift within me." And she would confirm for him. And so that's what's happening. There's a shift that is happening, and for the two of them, they work together a lot in healing that together. So they'll go in meditation together, or they will do some sort of practice together where they will actually consciously heal together. And the more conscious your connection becomes, the more you have an opportunity to do that. Now, it depends again on where you are in your journey. It depends again on what your relationship is. For some, you're building a family together. For some, you'll be building a business together. For some, you will be doing this healing work together. It just depends on you as a couple, on what your union looks like in the physical. But energetically, she was displaying for us in the physical, what happens energetically is that you're always healing together. So that was interesting as well. Okay, so I don't even know how to begin with this. Jesus. Um, so again, I was up last night, middle of the morning, just getting so much, channeling so much, and channeling more about this. And what they brought to me was an image of the yin yang. And I did a little art project here to show us. So here we have the yin yang, right? And this is the epitome of masculine and feminine energy, number one. And this is also the epitome of the union. And if you guys have been on this journey with me for a while, on this channel with me for a while, you remember that in the very beginning of my channelings, what they had shown me was these two pieces. So you have this white piece, which is indicative of the masculine energy, and this black piece, which is indicative of the feminine energy. And you see how it's two pieces? You see how it's like black and white? Well, they had shown it to me as two separate pieces. Back in the 90s, yin yang was very popular, and we had a lot of jewelry. And if you were a teenage girl, then you might have had a yin yang necklace with like your best friend, and it's like that kind of thing. You can have that with like your lover too. It's like the two pieces of a heart, for example, and they join together to create the whole. So one person wears one half of a heart, and one person wears the other half of a heart. It's known as best friend necklaces, but it's the same concept. That's what they were showing me. They were showing me the two separate pieces. And what they said is that when those two pieces come together and join in that union, it creates this whole. And what happens is it's almost like the wheel. It clicks into place. I could hear like the locking into place, and the wheel starts turning. And what they were calling it is the wheel of destiny. The wheel of destiny starts turning. And that's what happens when you're going through this ascension journey, when you are experiencing this union energy with each other. Now remember, you're never separate. That's the illusion. And the more that you're clearing that illusion of separation, the more you're bridging the two, recognizing that the two never have been separate. That was just the illusion. So there's this oneness energy here. So you have the yang energy with a little bit of the feminine energy, right? You have both within you. This is the core masculine energy, also containing feminine energy within them. But they have to learn how to honor the feminine, to recognize the feminine within them that have been so suppressed. Their self-expression, their emotion, their intuition, that had been very suppressed. And the more that they honor that feminine aspect within them, the more they rise in their masculine energy. For the feminine, you have the masculine energy within you too, but you might have overcompensated, especially in this time and space where we're in. Your feminine energy might have been suppressed within you, divine feminines, and so you might have overcompensated, rejecting your own inner feminine Your inner feminine might have gotten distorted where you became a doormat, is what I'm hearing, where you abandoned yourself, neglected yourself, where you became over masculinated, trying to take care of everything, trying to have it all. And that's not to say that you can't have it all, obviously, but in like that over masculinated way where you are neglecting your feminine needs, allowing you neglected allowing yourself to receive, you neglected allowing yourself to, where the divine masculine is the giver, for example, the masculine energy gives, the divine feminine receives, you neglected yourself, you pushed that away. What they're also bringing me is the masculine energy, again, is the giver. The feminine energy is the multiplier. So anything that the masculine energy gives, the feminine energy will multiply and return. So if the masculine energy, for example, is in like a distortion, if they are, if they're, let's just call it toxic energy, if they're giving toxic energy, the feminine energy, she will multiply that. And that will either, she doesn't want to give that back, so that will drain her, that will make her hide away. She will take that on as like a responsibility. She will, I'm just seeing like it's I don't know how to describe it. What I'm just seeing is she will just become less and less and less of herself. If the masculine is offering love, acceptance, appreciation, the divine feminine will multiply that, and she will just expand because she's an expansive energy. She will expand and just give more and more and more of that to the masculine, but not just to the masculine, to all. Because the feminine energy is that expansive, that she can hold the container for all. Whereas if she is neglecting within herself, or distorted within herself, or abandoning within herself, small within herself, kind of like, I'm just seeing like fetal position, like curling up within herself, she doesn't have the capacity. She doesn't have the capacity to hold that energy. And so divine masculine, the feminine energy within you might have been experiencing this as well. So the divine masculine gives, the divine feminine receives. You have a core energy that you feel most safe with, you feel most at home with. And you can reverse roles at any point as well. There are some situations where you feel more masculine in business, for example. There are some situations where you feel more feminine. But you have a core that you feel is your natural state of being. And as you are healing along this journey, you are recognizing more and more what that natural state of being is, and becoming and embodying more and more that natural state of being. Okay, so we'll come back to this drawing in a minute. What I had channeled is that you trigger the light and the darkness in each other by reflecting the light and the shadow. So we're talking about twins now. We're talking about these sacred partners. As the masculine and the feminine, you're polarized. And what you're doing is you're bringing harmony to those polarities. But what happens is, again, you trigger each other. I want to encourage you guys to check out my Twin Flame Truths channelings, or any of the other channelings here on Susan Dawn Ascension Connections. You can also check out the Journey to Union bundle to go deeper into these understandings of what masculine and feminine is, and how you trigger each other, and why you trigger each other. I'm not going to go into that today. So the feminine, I'm going to read what I had channeled as I kind of go through this. The feminine, the yin energy, this black part here, is the darkness. She's the depth. She's the wilderness. She's the caverns of the heart. She's the moon. She's mysterious. She's alluring. She is quietly powerful. And what I mean by quietly powerful is she is not submissive. She's not a doormat. However, she is surrendered. She goes with the flow. She trusts her intuition. She trusts the unfolding. I'm hearing she trusts the next step. She is powerful in her magnetism. She is powerful in her embodiment. And I'm also getting this queen energy. She's powerful in her regalness. Now, you could be a male and be a feminine energy, or you can be a female and a feminine energy, but it's still that kind of queen energy. it's here that she actually shines. She shines in this depth. She shines in this magnetism. She shines in this wilderness. She shines in the darkness. She shines. And this is the light that is housed within her. Along this journey, I was with a group of women actually yesterday, and I could see, and through conversations, I could see where people were kind of in that false paradigm of love and light, and where people had really done their healing journey, had really gone through their own darkness. And it's like, that is divine feminine energy. Divine feminine energy has gone through their darkness and to find their light. And now I want to be very clear, that is not a judgment. Everybody's at different phases of their path and different phases of their journey. But divine feminine energy is not just love and light. Divine feminine energy, again, has been through their darkness, has acknowledged their darkness, has experienced that darkness, has climbed out of that to understand themselves, to understand their light, and to shine more fully for others. You cannot have one without the other. Look at this as yourself. You cannot have one without the other. This is not just about twins or sacred partners. You cannot have one without the other. You cannot have the light without the dark. And so it's not just about love and light and excluding the darkness just for the light. It's not about just feeling the joy of life. It's about understanding that the duality of it. In order to really appreciate the joy of life, you have to understand the contrast of that. Maybe to understand the antithesis of that. Everybody experiences that as our human selves, as our human experience. And what we're doing is we're moving out of that suffering paradigm, which we have acknowledged, which we have gone through as a collective, and moving more into that joy, into that love. But we had to experience that for the purpose of understanding the contrast. What they're bringing me now to is the teaching out of the garden, into the garden, out of the garden. It was a teaching of unity consciousness. And what they had showed us was that the Adam and Eve parable is we had to move out of the garden in order to understand that the garden is always part of us. The garden is always within us. The kingdom of heaven is always with us. But we had to understand separation in order to understand unity. We had to understand separation in order to understand oneness, in order to understand that there is no separation. But we had to experience the illusion of that in order to come back to the anchoring in, the integration, and the actual understanding that there's always union, that we're always one with God. We had to experience or understand the illusion of that. And I'm putting it in quotes because it is an illusion. It's that separation illusion. We had to experience that in order to understand that we're never separate. So you can check out that teaching as well. That was a very powerful teaching when it comes to unity consciousness. So that's what this is. It's all part of the whole, part of the experience. And so the divine feminine has gone through her own darkness in order to shine her light, and this is where she shines. She shines in that depth. This is the light that's within her. So that's that energy here, that right there, that light that's within her. This light is the trigger point for the divine masculine. So the divine feminine has gone through her darkness and she's still shining. There's a meme that I saw a couple of weeks ago that said, you threw dirt and flowers grew, I'd be mad too. And it's like, that feels like the ultimate crux of what we're trying to say here. It's like, you're still shining, you're still growing, you're still evolving. And that is the hallmark of a true connection, this true twin flame connection. That is what it's for. It's for the purpose of growth and healing. Any other connection, think about this, any other connection, you might have kind of crumbled and sunk into that denser energy and carried that with you. But this journey has taught you to rise to the occasion. This journey has taught you to continue to grow. It's a desire for continued growth, to not keep stuck or stagnant in that energy, to keep growing. And so your light continue to shine even despite all the darkness that's been thrown at you. That is your empowerment, divine feminine. That is your gift. And you're showing the divine masculine too how to do that. So this is what you're meant to do. The masculine pushes you to grow through your darkness, to embrace your light. And everything that you've experienced with the divine masculine has pushed you more and more and more into your light and into your truth and into your being and into your embodiment. They might have pushed you to heal your abandonment. They might have pushed you to heal any maybe anxious or avoidant attachment. They might have pushed you to heal any neglect of yourself. They might have pushed you to have more healthy boundaries. They might have pushed you to express yourself, and every other wound that you might have encountered along the way. They have pushed you into more and more of your light, to embrace more and more and more of your authentic self. That's what this journey is. And that is not to say it is not painful. It is extremely painful, but that's what this journey is. And that's what this journey, I should say, was, because that's what this energy was. We had channeled this a long time ago. It's interesting. They had me bring out, I didn't know why, but I got this bottle when I was in Chalice Well in Glastonbury back in September. And this is the Vesica Pisces. Can you guys see that? So this is the well water. So the feminine energy is the Chalice Well, and then there's the White Spring, which was the masculine energy, and I'll put that link in the description box because I had an amazing experience in channeling there with the sacred masculine. So this is the Vesica Pisces, and this is what they've been channeling to me for a couple of years now. This energy, this is where your journey has been. Let me just get a different piece of paper here. I told you this channeling was going to be massive. So it's this, and it's this. So this is the Vesica Pisces, and we've been channeling that this has been your twin flame journey thus far. You meet, you're activated, and you go through this journey where you're triggering each other. That's where it might feel, there might be some friction. That's where it might feel tense. That's where it might feel like you're going through the healing journey. This is the healing aspect of the journey. This is the transition period. This is where you kind of are overlapping. There might be some separation here. This is the next phase of the journey. I call this the twin soul. Could be the same person, could be somebody different. Just depends on the energy. But this is your ascension. This energy here is where things feel much more peaceful. I call it the twin soul because it's like it feels more harmonious. It feels more peaceful. Again, it could be the same person, but the twin flame energy feels very catalytic. Again, that's where you're healing each other, triggering each other for that growth. Here, it's like you're learning through love now. Here, you learn through the pain. You learn through and you grow through, again, those triggers. Here, you learn through uplifting each other, encouraging each other, loving each other, the harmony. This is where the connection becomes conscious. So I just differentiated twin flame and twin soul. Again, it could be the same person. It's just a different energy. This is the higher heart ascension. This is where we're in now. This is what we've evolved to. And this is what we're going to be seeing as a shift in the physical going forward. That's where new counterpart connections might be coming in. That's where your original counterpart might be coming in, but with a transformed energy, a different energy, because you are at a different energy too. And again, you grow together, you evolve together as that same soul. So, okay, so that being said, let's go back to this. So they push you to grow. You push each other to grow. Meanwhile, we're going to talk about the masculine now. So the masculine, this light triggers the masculine. It triggers their shadow. So let's talk about the masculine energy. The masculine is light. They are naturally the light essence. They are the sun. They shine naturally in their leadership, in their strength, in their active masculine empowerment. The sun doesn't need to control. We're not talking about control. That's not power. That's a false paradigm of power. Control is not power. However, the sun doesn't need to control in order to shine. And so this is power on its own, shining on its own. This is what they begin to understand. This is why the feminine's light triggers the masculine, because this is the trigger point for the masculine. The darkness is the trigger point for the masculine. This is where they have been living in their own darkness. They might have been living here in this place of expectation, in this place of shame, in this place of not feeling worthy, not feeling good enough. And so the divine feminine, by shining her light and living in this little piece of her light, she is learning to shine her in her light that triggers the masculine shadow where he's been living. He learns to embody this. So divine feminine learns through the depth of herself, through the darkness, to grow her light. The divine masculine, where he's been living in the shadow, learns that he has that light within himself. So they have to heal the shadow in order to really embrace their own light that the feminine has been reflecting. You see that? You see how that's working? So you push each other. You push each other to grow. You're reflecting into each other that which you're not yet able to see in yourselves, and you're pushed to see more of yourself. That's why for the divine feminine has always been challenging the masculine to move out of the shadow where they weren't feeling worthy of themselves, where they weren't feeling good enough, where they weren't living up to their potential, where they weren't, living into their best self or the best embodiment of themselves. She has been unconsciously, let's put it this way, it's a very unconscious process until you get to understand this journey. And even then, it's an unconscious energetic process. She pushes the masculine to face their shadows, to recognize their light. To recognize their light. That's all she's ever wanted for the divine masculine, is to recognize their light. The divine masculine is doing the same, where the divine feminine has felt like their light has been so small because she's been so comfortable in the depths, so comfortable in that mystery, in that wilderness, in the caverns of her heart. Maybe she's been mirroring the same thing, not believing in herself. That's where she's pushed to become more and more of her light, and thus she multiplies that and encourages the masculine to do the same. So I hope that this makes sense. It makes sense in my brain. It makes sense in my heart. I don't know if I'm able to articulate this yet, but you both have these trigger points. You're both reflecting to each other to grow, to evolve. You're the shadow and the light for each other. And the more that you heal these aspects within yourself, the more it comes together in harmony, that it's not shadow and light. The shadow isn't something to fear. It's not, the darkness isn't something that is bad. That is what we're overcoming. That thinking. The darkness isn't something that is bad. The shadow is not something that is bad. That is what you're integrating. That is what you're understanding. You're coming into that wholeness. So it's not about one person or one counterpart having the light. You have the light within both of you, and the more that the light shines, the more that that is multiplied, and the more that the shadow is understood, the more that is integrated into the light. But these are the trigger points. You see the opposite? These are the trigger points for each counterpart, and this is where you're pushing each other and triggering each other to grow. Okay, so final messages. Two other songs came through this morning. Waves by Dean Lewis and No Choices by... Oh, speaking of Waves by Dean Lewis, I still have my music playing. Waves by Dean Lewis and No Choice by Fly By Midnight. And the No Choice song, the thing that was coming through is I have no choice, basically, but to keep thinking of you. I have no choice, you're always on my mind, that kind of energy. Can't remember what the lyric is. And with the Waves by Dean Lewis, it's the waves of energy, the waves of emotion. Just allow yourself to flow with those waves of emotion. Final messages that came through for the full moon energy is be mindful of your thoughts, because not every thought you think is yours or is a story to be believed. Anchor into your heart space, because this is where your self-mastery comes in, where you can choose either fear or love. And the fear becomes a consciousness trap. So keep overcoming and clearing that consciousness trap and coming back to that love. I did pull some cards for this full moon. I thought we were going to be doing a reading as well. Emotions are running high. Adjustments are required, and hold your vision. Everything that we had channeled, it is the emotions. Just be mindful of your emotions. Be mindful of your thoughts. Again, with the Venus-Mars conjunction energy too, we were talking about, it can be either the passion can give way to passion, as in lots of love that's expressed, or it can give way to conflict. Just be mindful of your thoughts, your patterns. Are you replaying old patterns? Are you replaying old behaviors? Are you replaying old thoughts? Be mindful of that. Thoughts and emotions are temporary. Sit with the energy. What is it showing you? What are you releasing? Allow yourself to observe, and then you can take action or communicate or whatever. That's the adjustments are required. You adjust within yourself. You make the adjustment within yourself. If you want new, you got to be new. And then hold your vision, because there's a lot of momentum. There's a lot of movement that's happening. Just keep anchoring the union energy, the love into your heart. Even if something is not experienced in the physical 3D yet, you create from the present moment. You create from the now moment. So keep anchoring that energy into your heart space. Okay, that's going to be it, I think. That's quite a lot. Sending you lots of love and lots of light, and we'll see you soon.